Get ready to be jolted out of the ordinary and into a world where conversations are charged with intensity and facts. The Lightning Strike Talk Radio with your host, Mohammed Fahim, broadcasting live from the heart of the city on Chicago's Progressive Talk Radio, WCPT 820 AM. Welcome to a radio show that charges through the airwaves with an electricity like no other. Here's your host, Mohammed Fahim.
Good morning, folks. You're listening to the Lightning Strike, and today we are taking a hard look at the administration's new approach to immigration and border policy. The question on the table: how much of our nation's soul are we willing to trade for quote-unquote security? The government keeps saying it's about protection, but let's be honest. A lot of what's happening feels more like shutting people out. Let's talk about what's changed since January 2025. The White House has fired off a flurry of executive orders and proclamations. The focus? Cracking down fast and hard. They didn't just bring back expedited removal, they blew it wide open. Now, immigration agents can deport undocumented people on the spot, barely giving them a chance to speak or to ask for asylum. Due process? Pretty much gone. They wiped out humanitarian parole protections. They ended up programs that let migrants who followed the rules apply for legal residency. The message: you're not welcome here. Inside the country, enforcement ramped up. ICE is detaining and deporting undocumented folks who have lived here for years, people who have built lives, families, and communities. Then came a tragic shooting near the White House. The response? The administration hit pause on all asylum decisions and stopped processing visas for Afghan nationals. Just like that, hope on hold. And now, the president says he'll permanently pause migration from so-called third world countries. That's not just a policy tweak, folks. It's a sweeping change that leaves whole communities in the shadows, wondering who's next. So what does this actually mean? We're not talking about minor adjustments here. This is a full-on reset of what America says it stands for. It's about who gets protection, who's turned away, and how we treat the people who need help most. All those rights we used to guarantee, due process, a shot at asylum, safe harbor, they're slipping away. People are scared. Families who once felt safe under humanitarian rules now face deportation, or they're stuck in limbo with no answers. Our country is sending a loud signal. The door's closed. We decide who is in, who is out. Meanwhile, almost 2 million asylum applications sit in limbo, a backlog that's already years long, now with even less hope of moving forward. And what about naturalized citizens? Folks who believed in the promise of justice and fairness here? They're watching all this unfold and feeling something slip away. The ideals they trusted are starting to feel shaky. Let's get real about leadership, folks. Sure, keeping people safe matters. Every country needs borders. But real leadership isn't just about locking the gate. It's about fairness, due process, compassion, and honoring the basic idea of refuge. So when did, quote unquote, security becomes an excuse for silence? When did borders start dividing neighbors instead of just nations? If our immigration system leaves people afraid instead of hopeful, if it breeds instability instead of safety, what are we really protecting? Closing the door is the easy part. Standing up for dignity, theirs and ours, is where the real work begins. This is the Lightning Strike. We don't just read the headlines over here, folks. We push back, we dig deeper, and we keep asking America to hold on to its humanity, even when it is tough. Now we want to hear from you. What does safety really mean? Who are we protecting? And what are we willing to give up to do that? I'm Mohammed Fahim. I host the Lightning Strike over here every Sunday morning with my co-host and team, Dr. Sheila White, Read Bible, Adriana Alvarez, Dali Silverberg, and we have former Congresswoman Marie Newman joining us at 9:15 every Sunday on the show, and Maria Muzaffar joins us at 9:30. and Carl Moose joins us at about 9:40, 9:45 over here. But today we've got a very, very interesting guest who is joining us, and I'll let Dr. Sheila White introduce our guest to you.
You know, it's really interesting, Mohammed, your commentary, because this is a person, Mr. Bill Natali, that has been in the media for years. He's worked on, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, Illinois Media School. He's worked in just about every area of media in the Chicagoland area. So he knows something about injustices that goes on in the news as well as in the media. He's an author of several books. And I want to just have Bill come on and talk a little bit about one of his books, Sawyer Avenue, because what you talked about, Muhammad, his book talks about real history, things that are going on. So welcome to the Lightning Strike, Bill. Tell us a little bit about one of your favorite books, Sawyer Avenue. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me on. Sawyer
Hey,
Avenue.
hey guys, before we go on, we've
Mhm.
also got Joey Ruzovich who has joined us, but we'll be bringing Joey on at about 8:20, 8:25. Joey, we are running a little bit late on the timing today. So Dr. White was just introducing Bill Natali. Uh, Sheila, please go ahead.
Okay. So, Bill, tell us a little bit about your book, the book that can't be in certain states, as we're talking about immigration, some of these injustices, Chicago race riots, all these things that are going on. Tell us a little bit about one of your books, because you're an author of many books.
Yeah, I have had the pleasure of now writing 7 books. My latest, which is this one, Sawyer Avenue, Life and the Times of Ozzie and Harriet, won the International Impact Award for Best Historical Fiction for
Wow.
2024. The book previous to that, Murder in Moscow, was a finalist, but this time we actually took home the gold, so to say. Sawyer Avenue is a look at life in America in the 1950s. And so it brings 2 characters together, an 8-year-old boy who's traveled all through the Confederacy of America, all the southern states by car, so not just
Mm.
hopping, but actually has stopped and has tried the foods that are to an 8-year-old boy kind of strange from Chicago, like grits and black-eyed peas and things like that. But what he can get answers about any of the food he's eating, but when he asks a question like, why do those signs say for colored only or for whites only? How come, you know, parents won't answer? They just say, that's not important. Don't worry about it, that sort of thing. And they just don't get any answers. The 8-year-old boy in Sawyer Avenue actually gets to meet a 98-year-old man. And this takes place in 1958, who was born into slavery. And so he brings a perspective of what the truth is about history. The problem today is you can get this book in the Downers Grove Library. I live in Downers Grove, just 35 miles west of Chicago. And frankly, you can get it in a number of libraries, but you
Okay.
cannot get it in the library in Miami, and you can't get it in the library in Tampa. I know because I have friends there. And I guess I made the naughty list of books that they don't want people to read. This book, Sawyer Avenue, is kind of the Huck Finn story. In other words,
Mm.
it's based on writers write what they know. So I know from the traveling uh, and from meeting the people in the South, even as a young boy. And by the time I was 8, I'd been to 26 states. And when I say 26 states, I mean 26 states where you're driving through them. Okay, so I had a chance to see a lot, and I always thought there's a story there, but I didn't know how to bring it about. And then one day, while I was just rummaging through some of my books, so to say, I picked up Mark Twain's book, Huckleberry Finn, and reread it, and I thought, oh, there you go. That's the story. Uh, Create the character, the 98-year-old man, create the boy, put them together somehow, and they're put together through another boy, the great great grandson of this 98-year-old slave. And so the young man learns things about, for example, the Tulsa Massacre. If you're not familiar with that, a few days ago, a woman of 111 years old passed away. She was the last survivor of the Tulsa Massacre, in which American Air Force planes dropped bombs on U.S. citizens. Basically, what happened, you had a riot because you had people who, in that Greensleeve district, were so successful. You had people upset about that, and took, and basically a riot ensued, and buildings were burned, and a square block area of buildings were burned, houses were burned. People were put out of not only their work and their businesses, but also it's an indication of another riot that took place in Wilmington. In Wilmington, you had an all-black council after the Civil War running the city, and there were a number of whites that didn't like that, and so the next thing you know, they all got shot and they got replaced immediately by all whites in the council, all whites in the mayor's office. So you've got a lot of this history that nobody wants to.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of this history that nobody wants to talk about. Frankly, you will not find it in our history books. I was amazed at how many, because not only have I been, an author of several books, but I worked in television for years as a producer, Emmy Award-winning producer director, and I was also the executive director over two vocational colleges, one in the Lombard area, one in downtown Chicago, from the Illinois media schools. Now, what I was surprised, especially with the downtown campus, which was about 90% African American, on how many African Americans did not know about the 1919 race riots, even in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't, the 1908 riots, nobody knew about that, but they might know a little bit about what happened in 68, which I did write a book called 1968, because 1968 was frankly a pivotal year for history. But Warner Saunders said about this book, one of the best books he had ever read regarding the race riots in Chicago. So what we find today is that everybody, it seems, that are with a certain administration, or should I use the word regime, wants to talk about American history in terms of uh, only the white things that are pleasant to talk about. They don't want to talk about the real history. And until we start talking about the real history, we are never, ever going to be free from the bondage of slavery, not just for people who have color, but for people who are white. They're never going to be free from it. And frankly, my books, for the most part, even in my own family, have always gotten, nice comments. But this book, I guess, triggered a few people, and I heard nothing, because it does deal with the real history of what has happened in this country, and especially what has happened in this country when it comes to race. So,
Bill, I want to just interrupt you for a minute because you've worked on every major television station in the city of Chicago: ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS. You've worked with Illinois Media Schools. You're on the National Board of Arts and Sciences. You have an extensive career in television. How do you see things shaping up now when you're talking about hiding history and the media not really wanting to bring to light some of the issues that are happening with immigration and some of these things that are happening, that are some race situations, especially with the immigration, with ICE coming in? What is your take on that? Because the media is kind of not talking about a lot of things. They're giving people a pass, even this administration. So we just have a couple of minutes, but I want to get your take on that because you have such an extensive background in media. Are they doing a great job or bad job, in your opinion?
well, they're doing a job that's under very difficult circumstances. Okay, when you have the top office holder in the land addressing women as piggy, in terms of, he doesn't like a question that was asked, you know, that tells you a lot. But also, here's where I blame the media. I blame the media in caving in giving millions of dollars towards a presidential library because they're worried about they're worried about the heat from the FCC, which tells you that the FCC is being used as a tool to monitor what people say, to influence them not to say certain things. And so it really bothers me when like ABC caved in on the George Stephanopoulos. Um, Frankly, they should have taken that to court. They would have won. There was nothing libelous there. Okay, and now the BBC, thank God, is standing up and saying, no, we're not going to give you any millions. You can take us to court if they want. And the thing is, if they take them to court, they'll have to take them to court in the UK. You can't take them to court here because that supposedly is where the infraction took place. They're going to lose terribly in the UK. That's why you may not even see that lawsuit. But this whole idea of the Oval Office suing everybody because they don't like what's reported,
Yep.
that okay, fine. We unfortunately have to expect that. But my problem with the media is when they cave in, and they shouldn't be caving in at all. Absolutely not. And so I do have a problem. I've worked for CBS, NBC, ABC, PBS. I've even worked for Fox 32 here in Chicago. Matter of fact, I've worked for every station in Chicago except for Channel 38. So I think I have a pretty good idea of the mission of many of the stations. And some of the stations have a mission that are frankly geared toward certain ethnicity. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But are you going to tell me that somehow Korean television is a bad thing in Chicago? No, it's not. It's a great thing. So until we recognize the fact that there is diversity, instead of trying to get away from that and trying to, control it and trying to say DEI is a bad thing, I just don't see it. I don't see how DEI is somehow a bad thing because it deals with diversity, equity and inclusion. I mean, how is that a bad thing? So,
Well, I think, Bill, we can have this discussion for hours, man. You're bringing up so many important points,
Mhm.
uh, and this is something that we need to have an in-depth discussion on one day, and hopefully, we'll be able to bring you back in, at your convenience. We can have a separate podcast on this topic because this is a never-ending topic. And so, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Sheila, for bringing great guests on to the show. And I would like to introduce Joey Ruzovich now, and Joey is running for the 6th Congressional District in Illinois. Bill, you're welcome to stay on and listen to Joey, and hopefully, share some of your insights into the challenges that Joey is facing. Joey, good morning. Welcome to the Lightning Strike.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for joining us. And so, 6th Congressional District, Sean Casten.
Yes.
Why, Joey? Why? Why, Sean? I mean, he's such a great guy. Come on.
Sure. Yeah, that's exactly the
Okay.
sentiment we've been
Well,
hearing
he
from
runs away when you
constituents.
ask him a question, right?
Yeah. Sorry?
When you ask him a question, he runs away. He does not answer anyone's questions. He's taking money from God knows everyone that is on the planet. And so one day, Joey Roosevelt said, I'm going to challenge Sean Casten.
Yes. So the point that you made about running away from questions, it's far worse than that, unfortunately. Representative Kasten does represent the largest group of Palestinians outside of Palestine itself, and he has been voting in lockstep to support Israel during their genocide over the last 2 years. He refuses to meet with his Palestinian constituents. I've talked to a lot of them, and they've reached out over 900 times, and he still refuses to sit down and talk to them, listen to their concerns about how his votes are directly leading to the slaughter of their family members. This is not representation of the people, and that's why I decided, one of the main reasons I decided to jump into this race and run for Congress.
So, Joey, let's talk a little bit about your background.
Sure.
What have you been doing with your life so far? How have you been contributing to the community?
Sure. So I am a 28-year-old software engineer. My first job out of college was doing machine learning research for a subcontractor of the Department of Defense. And then I became a mobile app engineer for a Silicon Valley company where we did Internet of Things devices that you could control from your phones. I now run my own small business where I create mobile apps and I try to help out other small businesses who have been priced out of the technology market. But I've been very interested in politics since I was 17, 18 years old when Bernie Sanders ran for president in 2015, 2016. So that was the first time that I volunteered for a campaign that got me interested to pay attention to what he was saying. And I really started to learn as much as possible, read books, listen to lectures, podcasts, all of that to try to drink in as much information as possible. Because as an engineer, I like to understand how things work. I like to understand the underlying mechanisms of a system, the levers of power. And I realized that politics affects every single aspect of our lives. And so this is what I need to learn. I need to know who is making these decisions, why these decisions are being made, and why the deterioration of the American dream has happened over the last 20 to 30 years. So I've done a little bit of work on the local level as well, just volunteering for different charities and food banks, Special Olympics. I love to volunteer for that. And I listened to and volunteered for a gentleman named Andrew Yang in 2019. Andrew Yang ran a company named Venture for America, in which he tried to have a capitalistic solution, encourage people to build companies around social issues and try to do some good in the world while starting a business. He said that during that time he was doing good, but he had a great quote. He said, "It felt like I was pouring a glass of water into a bathtub with a bowling ball size hole at the bottom, and all that water was just draining out." And so he wanted to run for president because he felt like that was the position he could do the most good in. And that is exactly why I'm deciding to run for federal Congress instead of a local race or a state house race, which I admit there are great things to be done, especially with the boycott, divestment, and sanction law that is in Illinois that needs to be repealed. But I do believe that I can do the most good at the federal level because there's the most power there, especially with the artificial intelligence crisis we're facing, the data centers with the electricity, and the devaluation of the American dollar over the last 50 years or so that has caused us to be in this economic situation that we're in.
So, Joey, we have a very, very interesting panel today for you. I've got Dr. Sheila White. She is, again, 3 times Emmy nominated, award-winning author, producer, director, media person. We got, Bill Natale over here joining us today.
Yeah.
You just heard what Bill's background is. Has been a major media personality in the Chicago area. I've got also Reed Bible, who's joining us. Reed is our regular contributor over here, co-host for the show, former special supervisory agent for the Department of Homeland Security, immigration attorney, Will County board member at one time. And Adriana Alvarez is representing our Gen Z generation. She's one of our producers over here now. So, guys, you got any questions for Joey?
Yeah.
Any suggestions on how to beat the machine?
I have just a comment, Joey. Welcome to the lightning strike. What I love about this generation, I'll say, is that they're not like the baby boomers. This generation comes in ready to lead. They're not sitting back waiting. They're ready to just take that just to go in there and go to work. And so I love that about this generation. They're just ready to make a difference with things that are going on. I would just like to get your take on some of the infrastructure things that you would like to do within your district.
Sure. So a lot of what we see is that federal money is constantly going towards war, and I would like to
Mhm.
reappropriate those funds, direct them back to the district. So I sat down with an Elmhurst City Council member, and he said that there are still lead pipes all over Elmhurst, running water to people's homes, and it would cost about $10,000 per home to take out those lead pipes and replace them. There's 1.25 million homes that have lead pipes in Elmhurst, so it'd be about $12.5 million. That's very difficult for a locality to raise, or to put that burden on the homeowner. So if we are able to reappropriate some funds away from the $1 trillion Pentagon budget that we have, which certainly has waste, fraud, and abuse, that just so happened that Elon Musk and Doge didn't want to touch the Pentagon when they were in there slashing and burning away, we can do that. We can reappropriate funds away from endless war and direct them back towards the community for tangible goods, like replacing lead pipes for people, like building out infrastructure, like providing last mile public transportation. Again, an example in Elmhurst, they have one trolley that runs for free, just within the city limits. You could purchase multiple of those. You could purchase multiple electric buses, build out the infrastructure to provide a tangible benefit to the American people so that their quality of life is better and better each year.
Joey, one of the
Joey,
things that I'm sorry, Sheila, go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah, I just have another question. What is your plans to help the small businesses? A lot of small businesses are going under today. And so what are your
Yes.
plans to help the small businesses in that particular district so that they can kind of survive in these trying times?
Absolutely. I've been speaking to a lot of small businesses, and one of the main things that they say is that they are dealing with the pressures of monopolies in every single
Mm.
market that they face. I spoke to a beekeeper who creates raw honey and honey products at the American Muslims for Palestine conference yesterday. And they told me that honey is one of the second most faked foods in the world, just behind olive oil. So this is a great example where the federal government needs to step in and have some real regulation and testing for honey products so that we're not being sold, sugar syrup instead of actual honey. And the small businesses have the opportunity to compete in a market where people are doing those shortcuts and able to lower their prices for their fake honey versus when they're selling real honey, at a small business. Another example that I would give is grocery stores and anybody that runs a restaurant. The price of meat has gone through the roof over the last 20 years. And that is largely due to the consolidation of companies in the agriculture market. We have, I think, 4 major meat packers in the United States. We need to break up these monopolies and allow the competition to drive down prices for everybody. Another example that I give that affects everybody is that 3% credit card fee that we're all paying now. It used to be that fee was about 1%. And so the businesses would eat that cost because it really wasn't that big of a deal. But once you start getting to 3, 4, 5%, you're cutting into the margins of small businesses that are already on the margins, barely scraping by. And so they have to push that cost onto the consumer. The reason why that credit card processing fee has been going up and up and up is because there are only 2 or 3 credit card processing companies in the world. They say that it's because of safety, data security, but we can have standards that small businesses that want to start up a processing company are able to follow. And then you can have more competition in the market that drives down those prices for those small businesses, to the point where you get it down to below 1% of a credit card
Right.
processing fee.
Can
But that's
I,
a
may I ask, when it comes to the Palestinian population, is it in Downers Grove? Is it in Lombard, Elmhurst, or is it all over?
It's spread all over the district, certainly, but there is a high contingency in what's called Bridgeview, Illinois. That's Little Palestine, but it's Bridgeview, Palis Park, Palis Hills, Orland Park, Tinley, the southwest suburbs. But there are Arab and Muslims, and specifically Palestinians, all over the district.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So, Joey, I wanted to come back to some of the questions that I had for you. Which are can you list any of the major endorsements that your campaign has received or is seeking so far?
Yes, we have been endorsed by the West Illinois Suburban Chicago DSA. I just spoke to the Cook County DSA and applied for that endorsement. I'm hoping that that comes through as well. We have been endorsed by the Cook County Latino Democrats. And we are seeking several other endorsements, especially from unions. I met with a major union organizer yesterday. We had lunch, and he's very excited about my campaign. He's a part of the Meat Cutters Union, which is heavily Hispanic, and they have been getting terrorized by ICE in Chicago. And current Representative Sean Casten has failed to speak out about this until very, very recently. I actually created a video showing that on his Twitter account. I searched, Rep. Sean Casten Broadview. You can search, has this person said this word on Twitter? And there were no results. And so I posted a video of that, and it just so happens that 2 days later he starts to talk about it. So it's too little, too late. The people needed him to stand up and speak out when ICE and Greg Bonvino were, terrorizing all of the neighborhoods of Chicago, not just in Broadview, but all across District 6. And the fact that he didn't is leading to a lot of discontent in these communities. So,
No, Joey, yesterday I was invited to a family function in Glendale Heights, and we drove from my home to Glendale Heights. I did not see a single snowplow on the road. I'm talking like 55 and 355 major roads, right? And when I went there, someone remarked that it is all because of ice. A lot of the snowplow operators are afraid to come out and clean the streets now because these people are usually landscapers who turn around and do these things in winter. So thank you, President Trump, for ice. I mean, these guys have screwed up our country every which way. And all of these people in Congress are so afraid of speaking up because they might be primaried or they might lose their funding from their APAC sponsors. I'm so glad that people like you are willing to step up and challenge the status quo over there. Bill, you had a question for Joey?
Well, Joey, do you intend to debate Sean Casten at some point in the near future?
Absolutely. I would love to have that set up. We've been speaking to the League of Women Voters that usually host town halls and debates. We're also speaking to the Letter Carriers Union that would potentially host a candidate forum. Not necessarily a debate, but an opportunity for us to both be on stage together answering the same questions. But I would love to debate Representative Casten because during that debate, I'm going to make sure that he has to answer for all of the things that he has refused to answer for during the last 6 to 8 years of his being in office, specifically for the support for the genocide. I mean, there is no excuse for somebody who represents the largest Palestinian population to be supporting Israel so staunchly. And I think, the $300,000 that he's received from the Israeli and APAC lobby might have something to do with that. But once we get on stage, I'm going to press him very hard on that issue in particular and many, many other issues, especially his claim to being for clean energy and energy production and the lack of delivering that he's done over the last several years.
Well, Joey, I just wanted to let everyone who's listening know that we are planning an online debate for all candidates in about 4 different congressional districts. So we'll be looking at the 6th, we're looking at the 9th, we're looking at the 8th, and we're looking at the 7th also.
Excellent.
So that's somewhere in January. So you're the first person to know that. So keep prepared. And if they don't show up, they don't show up. We had a debate for our local, municipality over here for our mayor's race. And Sheila is chuckling We invited all the 4 candidates. 3 of them did not show up.
Wow.
We only had the mayor who was running again show up, and we took pictures of him sitting over there with 3 empty chairs beside him.
Yeah.
And that won him the election. Okay, because people were like, this shows how committed they are to answering people in a public forum. So yeah, we're going to be definitely setting up something in January. And thank you so much for joining us, Joey. And how can people find more information about you? How do we support you?
Absolutely. Please go to joey4congress.com. That's my website. We're going to be updating it very shortly. And then you can also follow on social media. It's Joey Rusevich, IL6 on all social medias. There's a Facebook page where we post all of our events. And you can provide a small donation if you absolutely can. We're going up against a fully funded machine Democrat. So ActBlue/donate/Joey Ruse is the way to do it. And thank you very much for having me. I greatly appreciate the opportunity.
You're very welcome. So what's your fundraising goal now, Joey?
We have a very high fundraising goal for December and the end of Q1, but we won't share exact numbers. We want people to be pleasantly surprised with how well we've been doing in Q4 and come out of the gate swinging in Q1.
Awesome. I'll give Adriana the final word as a Gen Z. Adriana, you got anything for Joey?
No, it's just very interesting to hear what you have to say, as well as I really, really liked how you were talking about when you do talk with this individual that they are going to answer the questions that they have been tiptoeing around. That's something that I think we're seeing a lot more of, and it's stirring up a lot of commotion, stirring up a lot of trouble because we're not just sitting down quietly, standing idly by while this is happening. Like we will push back. Um make we will make a commotion because it's something that we care about, we're passionate about, and it's not just going to sit aside.
Absolutely. As the late great John Lewis said, get in good trouble. And that's what I'm trying to do.
Joey, make sure you get a hold of Jeff Marchese, Marchese. He's the planning editor at WLS TV, because WLS, I mean, I worked at all the stations, but they do, I think, a really great job of hosting a lot of debates. So Jeff Marchese, that's somebody you want to connect with.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Thank you for that. I will reach out.
Joey, again, thank you so much for joining us. We'll definitely bring you back in somewhere in January for the debates. And I need to go to Read Bible now. Read, good morning.
Good morning, everybody. It's nice to see you all, even though I guess you're all buried in snow. So
rub it in, man, rub it in.
Hey, I've got to take advantage. I mean, I'm on the flip side of this. Here in the desert, we get it in the summertime. That's why I'm here now. So, because we don't have that snow. But snow is great, and it's just I'm so impressed with Mr. Rusevich. Thank you for being on the show today, and Mr. Natali. It's wonderful to meet you, and your last names are somewhat ethnic, I think, which kind of shows the greatness of America, doesn't it? That we're a nation of immigrants. And Natali, of course, how appropriate getting into December. Natali means Christmas in Italian.
That's right.
So that might give you an indication where his roots are. And Mr. Rusevich too. Right. So it's fabulous to have you guys on. What I have on my mind today, though, Mohammed, is this business of what's happening United States vis-a-vis Venezuela. MAGA was emphatic when it said America first, and that's why they supported Donald Trump. They said no more embroilments in the problems of foreign nations that do not directly affect our nation's security and our nation's general welfare until our society's basic needs are met. Well, here we go again. Let's give you a rundown of what's happening in the Caribbean and Eastern Pacific. Since September 2nd, 2025, the Trump administration has attacked 21 Venezuelan civilian vessels, with either unarmed or lightly armed crew members allegedly engaged in narcotics trafficking out of Venezuela. The vessels were blown out of the waters of either the Caribbean or Eastern Pacific by drone missile strikes, killing 80 unidentified people. And Trump has claimed that the strikes were conducted to protect the nation from, quote, narco traffickers or narco terrorists, I should say, such as Tren de Aragua and Cartel de los Sales, which Trump claims is headed by Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. However, no evidence of drugs on board on any of these vessels has been presented to the people of this nation. So not only do these strikes constitute a broken promise on the part of Trump, but it also is violative of both international and U.S. domestic law. Let me break that down for you here. The UN Charter prohibits the use of force and violation of the fundamental humanitarian law against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state as ruled by the International Court of Justice. Now, as a member of the United Nations, we are supposedly supporters of the International Court of Justice, and we now have decided that we're only going to, on a case-by-case basis, subject ourselves to its jurisdiction. We're no longer going to be subject to their compulsory jurisdiction. And that started to happen back in 1986 when the United States lost a case in front of the International Court of Justice regarding Nicaragua and our support for the Contras there. They ruled against us under the international law. And so now we are on a case-by-case basis deciding whether or not we're going to subject ourselves to its jurisdiction. Nevertheless, we are members of the United Nations. So we should be listening to the International Court of Justice. So there are some special rules here, though, when it comes to using force. There are exceptions, and I'm going to tell you what they are here. One is that you're authorized to use force if the United Nations Security Council authorizes it. Obviously, that's not the case here. The U.S. is a member of the Security Council, and we're not going to not authorize this kind of thing. But there are 3 other members of the permanent Security Council and others who are not approving of what we're doing in Venezuela. The second excuse or justification for all this bombing of people is self-defense. We are allowed to use force like this in the cases of armed attacks by either state or non-state actors. But the attack has to also be imminent or in progress. Also, in the case of non-state actors, which is the case with these boats, self-defense can only be justified if the force that was used is reasonable or necessary as a means to repel an armed attack from a grievous attack, where I should say is grievous in nature. And it has to be proportionate to the threat that's posed. And that means that we only use so much force as is necessary to neutralize the threat. It's not supposed to be punitive in nature. We're just supposed to be trying to neutralize the threat. So the attacks have to be armed. They have to be sufficiently grave in nature in order to justify our attacks. And they have to be by emanating out of a country that has demonstrably shown an unwillingness or an inability to prevent the armed attacks. We don't have any demonstration of that on the part of Venezuela. They haven't said that they're unwilling to cooperate in stopping these things. So as I see it, we got several reasons why these attacks on the international scene are just not authorized. One is that narcotics traffickers are non-combatants, and there was no evidence that the crewmen on board these ships were armed. Whatever the threat they posed, it wasn't imminent because they were blown out of the water hundreds of miles away from our shores. So that's far from being an imminent attack. And execution of non-combatants violates the Geneva Convention. So the excuse of self-defense it's not credible here. The force that was used was deadly force. It was disproportionate. There were other means by which to deal with this, including maritime interdictions when they came into our territorial waters, but we didn't choose to do that. We just chose to blow them up. We can also have treaties to get Venezuela to help us on this. We haven't really approached or tried that approach. Also, narco traffickers, as President Trump wants to call them, as narco terrorists. Well, drug dealers are not terrorists. They are trying to get illicit profits off of a nefarious trade of a deadly product. But terrorism inherently means that you are using violence to achieve a political ends. Drug traffickers are not trying to do anything political. They're just trying to make a lot of money in obscene, heinous ways. So they're not terrorists that to justify using missiles to blow them out of the waters. It's just none of the excuses that Trump comes up with really apply as far as a sort of a warfare kind of situation. And this only brings us then to trying to justify it as a police action, law enforcement action. And even with that, there's problems with international law saying that, no, you can't do that because we have something on the international level called due process. And we also have due process on the domestic level. We don't have a Congress that has authorized this kind of activity in the Caribbean. And the president does have some independent authority to use limited force to protect U.S. personnel and interests abroad, but it cannot initiate or sustain hostilities absent this congressional authority. And Congress has not given this authority, nor has Congress declared war on anybody, and Congress has got that exclusive power to do it. So Trump loses out on domestic law. And I want to point out that he's saying that he's trying to protect this nation from drug trafficking. Here's some facts that need to be thrown out there. 84% of the cocaine seized in the US last year came from Colombia, not Venezuela, according to the DEA. Cocaine overdoses kill about half as many Americans each year as fentanyl does. And 2/3 of the fentanyl comes from Mexico, and only about 10 to 13% of it comes from Venezuela. However, we are not doing drone strikes on Colombia or Mexico. Also, President Trump just pardoned the former president of Honduras. His name is Juan Orlando Hernandez, who was convicted and sentenced to 45 years in a U.S. prison for trafficking tons of cocaine to this country. So again, more of the arbitrary nature of what Trump is doing.
You know what, Reed, I'm so glad you brought up this topic. I wanted to play a small clip from Samuel Moncada, who is the Venezuelan ambassador to the United Nations. I just want our listeners to take a listen to this.
What's going on here? There is a killer prowling the Caribbean, bloodthirsty, looking for wars, and there is no justification at all. They are fabricating a war, and everybody should stop pretending that is a complicated matter and face the truth. The emperor is naked. Nobody dares to say it, but the emperor is naked. In Latin America and the Caribbean, as in other regions of the world, the CIA is well known for its covert operations aimed at pushing processes of destabilization, sabotage, counterinsurgency, plannings of coup d'etat, and assassinations of heads of state and government, with the purpose of installing political systems subservient to the interests of the U.S. government, puppet governments. Everybody knows what.
So this is so critical for us to understand again that there is a constant military-industrial complex war going on. So Joey, I'm so glad that you're still staying with us. You know, Congress should have the spine to step up and challenge what is happening. I'm so glad that now a Republican has started asking questions both in the Congress and the Senate now. There's a movement on now major bipartisan scrutiny, both Republicans and Democratic leaders of key defense committees. They have opened an investigation into Pete Hegseth and this, the double tap that was ordered by Hegseth. There were people that got blown out of the water, of the boats into the water, and Hegseth said, go back and get them. Now, the strike involved the Caribbean boat attack on September 2nd, where sources claim that Hexet says that everyone on board should be killed, including the survivors. Where is the legal authority for this and the moral clarity for us as a country?
There is none, unfortunately. Excuse me. And I think it's a shame that more members of Congress have not spoken up about this. The illegal activity with blowing boats out of the water in international water to oppose this, and then to speak out against the military buildup in Venezuela. And Donald Trump just announced that the airspace over Venezuela is officially closed, according to him. So the fact that the fact that we don't have people on the news screaming from the rooftops, we need to stop. We need Congress to take back the war powers that they are supposed to have. Is just an indictment on the lack of leadership that we have, especially in the Democratic Party, that's supposed to be the opposition party, and using the power that they have to oppose these illegal activities.
Well, that is one of the challenges that I have also pointed out in the past, Joey. The Democratic Party leadership have to get their act together. We have got too many leaders who are long in the tooth now, who are refusing to give up their so-called power in the party. And unless that is done, I don't think that they can just skate by and say, "Oh, we are going to have a great time in the midterms." No, the midterms are going to be a challenge. Okay, look at this in New York with Mamdani doing as well as he did. Still, Cuomo running as an independent managed to get over 600,000 votes. That is a significant number of people who are going to go out and vote. And if the Democratic Party leadership does not get its act together, forget about it. We are not going to win the midterms. Okay, I don't think that they should be taking it that easy over here. And you want to come in as a young person, as you want to bring in new ideas, they immediately block you.
Very true. We see examples like with AOC coming in 2018 and protesting in Nancy Pelosi's office with the Sunrise Movement, where she was willing to challenge her own party in order to do these things, in order to make progress. And then you see the shift, and you see how she has started to work with the establishment to try to cozy up to them and get favor in one way or another, instead of constantly railing against the establishment. So, I don't want to rag on AOC too much. She is still one of the most progressive members of Congress and has done great things and championed great things. But the lack of leadership, the old guard, is really the issue. And you have to also look at how many of these members of Congress are personally invested in the military-industrial complex, where their financial gain for these acts of war is the reason why they're unwilling to speak out. I know that not only personal gains with the stocks that they get, but also the campaign contributions and the donations that they get from these companies. I know that Representative Sean Casten, who I am challenging, has been donated to by, let's say, Boeing. And Boeing is one of the major military industrial complex manufacturers. So his unwillingness to speak out against a new regime change war in Venezuela is probably in part due to the fact that he is personally financially benefiting, or his campaign is, when they are allowed to do these things.
Mohammed,
Go ahead, Reed.
I'm glad that Mr. Rusevich pointed that out, that a lot of them have personal investments in these defense contract companies. Also, they're so willing to give up congressional power. They should be jealously guarding their power, one of which is the power to declare war and to stop Trump from doing this. This military buildup in Venezuela, which they're calling Operation Southern Spear, is just the prelude to another war. He's dispatched the USS Gerald Ford aircraft carrier. There's a nuclear submarine down in the Caribbean. F-35 fighters, jet fighters are being out there. Well, at least 12,000 sailors and Marines, CIA operatives are there, and they're conducting joint military operations exercises in Trinidad and Tobago with the soldiers of that island nation. So it's clear that they're heading for some kind of a regime change, which is something, again, MAGA was adamantly against. And we're not friends with Nicolas Maduro. I'm not defending him. Obviously, his election last year was rigged, and so they're using that as an excuse to try to do a regime change. But I think a lot of it has to do with another fact, and that is that Venezuela is the largest known oil reserves in the world, and larger than Saudi Arabia, and they also have rare earth, and they also have a lot of gold there. So this is quite an attractive prize for our American plutocrats and the international multi-corporate plutocrats. If they can get control of that, oh boy, how much more in the billions and trillions they're going to be able to pocket. So that might be a motive for why we're doing this stuff. Also, we're very concerned about the influence of China and Russia in Venezuela. So we want to maintain that Monroe Doctrine mentality. And so these are all possible motives for why we're doing this. But I think most Americans, whether they're MAGA or not MAGA, progressives or conservatives, we are tired of having our blood spilled and our treasure spent on unnecessary, continuous, non-ending wars all over the globe instead of minding our own business.
Reed, I wanted to bring up again the example of Mamdani. Okay, when he was in that debate, that's where he won the election with the 5 candidates, and 4 of them said, "What are you going to do when you?" "Oh, I'm going to go to Israel. I'm going to go for my 4th trip to Israel." Oh, and Mamdani said, "I'm going to focus on the 5 boroughs over here and the Jewish population in New York." We got our own issues over here, man. Some of the things that Joey was pointing out is, why don't we spend our money over here where it is needed? Our infrastructure is going to have, okay. Just look at our roads and our bridges and all of that. The infrastructure bill that was passed during Biden's administration has been put on hold now. Okay, all of this shenanigans that they came up with Doge and all of that. What happened to Doge, man? Where is Doge now?
No
They
longer.
officially closed it down for
Yeah.
cost-saving measures, ironically
Okay.
enough.
I mean, so just look at it. Okay, they come in and they screw up everything, and then they say, "Oh, it's going to be a cost-saving measure. We are closing Doge down."
Yeah, it's just corruption. Elon Musk really used that position to funnel money from the government to his businesses through government contracts. He canceled or was trying to cancel contracts with NASA so that SpaceX could get them. Similarly with the Pentagon, I believe it was Verizon or some internet service provider that was competing with government contract, and he wanted SpaceX to get that for the satellites that they give. So it was just a way to funnel money to his personal businesses.
And nobody really wanted to make any comments on that, either in the Congress or the Senate. Okay, and this is just so frustrating for me. As a citizen, why are our elected representatives not representing us? That is a question that is so rhetorical. At 9:15, folks, former Congresswoman Marie Newman will be joining us, and she's going to talk about some very interesting topics today. The percentage of Russian bots who pose as MAGA accounts on social media that has been exposed, and Marie is going to talk about that, and the exodus of GOP Congress people and the rise of FDR working families positions that could lead to an FDR-style renewal period with a supermajority that could hold for more than a decade. And she's going to also highlight their incompetence and their arrogance, the military excursions that we have been talking about, going after congressional veterans. I mean, just think about it, man. Our president is threatening to assassinate, kill, hang Congress people. I mean, and nobody has There was no peep from local media or national media about this. They just brushed it under the rug. Referred to our Congress calling a media person, shut up, piggy.
Mm.
What do we have over here? A president? A little child who is playing president.
Can
So
I
Murray
jump
is also
in
going
really
to talk
quick?
about legal orders in the military. Go ahead, please.
So I just want to say that unfortunately, I believe Democrats laid the groundwork for the second Trump administration by not delivering when they were in power. Between 2020 and 2022, Democrats held a majority in the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They failed to pass a $15 minimum wage with the infrastructure bill because they said they allowed the parliamentarian to tell them that a minimum wage raise was not appropriate for an infrastructure bill. When the Republicans get into office and the parliamentarian has something to say negative about their bills, they just fire the parliamentarian and they hire somebody new that's willing to allow them to do what they want to do to deliver for the American people. And I think that the Democrats, that's just one small piece. Another example is in 2021 when there was the rail workers strike. The railroad workers wanted one single day of sick pay on their monthly contract. And Biden chose to side with the owners, the billionaire owners of the railroad companies, and quash that strike. There were no Democratic senators or congressmen that stood up and said, hey, 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 we're supposed to be the party of the working people. We're supposed to be the party of unions. Why is our president backing this individual? And then, of course, the support for the genocide in Israel, or in Gaza, rather, committed by Israel. So, we have to look at ourselves as Democrats and say, where have we failed in the past that has allowed somebody like this to come in and just eviscerate the Constitution, start new regime change wars? But again, then you want to go back to, President Obama and the amount of drone strikes that he dropped in the Middle East, and talk about Libya and how it's a failed state now. This is a playbook that has been on the record for decades and decades and decades, and nobody has stepped up to stop it. So we need a clean sweep of new leadership, not just in the House, but also in the Senate and in the presidency.
Absolutely. I cannot agree more with you. And I see Dr. White also, shaking her head on this one. Sheila, you want to make a comment on this? I mean, we are so sick and tired of this legacy leadership. I cannot even bring to talk about this. And that's where
Yeah.
progressive media, progressive radio comes in, that at least we can get the word out and start uh, informing people that there are choices.
Yeah.
Sheila.
Yeah. And this is like puppet politics, whatever he says, that's what they're going to do. And you are right, Joey. The Democrats have to hold some responsibility and accountability for what has been happening and what has allowed to happen over the decades. This just did not happen in a silo. This happened over a period of time because people decided not to stand up for what they believe in for the working people. You are absolutely right about that. And so we helped create this climate. And so we have to be accountable for it. And I do agree, we need a clean sweep from the bottom all the way up to the top. And so I am glad that there's this younger generation is ready to lead. They're coming in ready to take the bull by the horns and just drive it home. And that's what we need, just to sweep through from the bottom to the top.
Well, we got Murray also joining us. And so Murray brings in some great perspectives to the conversation every Sunday. Good morning, Murray. We got, excuse me, we got Joey also on the air with us, and Joey decided to stay on so he could say
Great.
hello to you.
Hello, Joey.
Hi, Marie. Good to see you
Yeah,
again.
we're not far from each other. Joey hails from the 19th Ward, one of my very favorite wards in the city. And also I'm just in LaGrange, so we're not far. And so thank you for being here today. And thank you everyone for listening on this gorgeous snowy day. Oh my gosh, it is a quintessential, beautiful Chicago snowy day, is it not?
Yes.
Truly.
So good stuff. So what are we ignoring at our risk this week? All kinds of weird things. I mean, it's almost an oxymoron at this point to say that the paradoxes in this administration are phenomenal. But wow, what are we ignoring this week? There's something that really caught my eye that got a little bit of play, but not a lot. And I think it's the MAGA accounts that were exposed as foreign bots. We kind of forget about the disinformation campaigns that were out there via Russia and several other Eastern European countries and Africa and in Thailand and Bangladesh. We knew that. We learned that, right, in the Obama administration, that clearly there was some malfeasance, not some, a lot of malfeasance coming from those centers on the various social media platforms. But interestingly, as this administration and its affiliates, heavy on the affiliates, always do, they tell on themselves, right? They always tell on themselves when they're making an announcement. So on X, we learned that when they rolled out about this account feature that displays the account's country and region and all of the things, some of the online sleuths and news organizations quickly used this tool to discover a really interesting thing, is that many of these accounts that were MAGA related or MAGA affiliated per their bio were from Nigeria. And there's an example called @Ivanka News. So funny. In Eastern European, there was the MAGA Nation X, and that had 400,000 followers. Thailand had 17 accounts that came from there that had upwards of 100,000 followers, and on, right? So what the heck happened here, right?
And
Well,
these are paid
go ahead.
shills too, correct?
Hey,
I'm sorry.
They're paid shills.
Oh yeah, no, these people are paid to have these accounts.
Yeah.
And they're given a verification by X automatically, but they were, so here's what happened in the long and the short of it, is that several prominent accounts were suspended and then deleted by their operators shortly after being exposed. So in other words, they're the foreign agents that were acting as MAGA supporters decided, wow, this might be scary for us, so we better take them down. So now there's more scrutiny, right? I think it was funny though, because here X thought they were bringing out this great new tech feature, right? And then, transparency is a hell of a thing. But
And
all
Marie, let's not forget also that the Department of Homeland Security account was based in Israel.
yeah.
That
Oh,
also came up.
I didn't know that was verified. Do we know that for sure? I
Oh,
saw
yeah.
that rumor. Okay.
Yep,
If there's a
yep.
major news outlet that is saying that is true, then
Yeah, there was some account with that thing. I also want to introduce you to Bill Natali, who's joined us today. Bill is a prominent journalist, has worked at almost like every major station in the Chicagoland area, from ABC to CBS to even Fox News.
very nice. Well, you have the full spectrum, and good to meet you. So you're glad to have you on the team today.
Good to meet you also.
Yeah, good stuff. Well, so then I thought what was a little bit interesting is our friends on the GOP side of the aisle and their planned exodus. This has a very interesting tale on it. So hang with me for a moment. We learned from a few of the news outlets that Puck and a few others, and Axios and a few others, identified that well, we know it's currently known about 23 House Republicans are either not running, resigning, or retiring, right? But apparently now it's starting to get quantified. There's about 30 other GOP members of Congress that are looking to resign early. What are they citing as their reasons? And I think this is a little bit ironic too. So right after Marjorie Taylor Greene resigned, they are all starting to say, the White House is hard to work with. We feel like we're being condescended. We feel like it's a dictatorship. Oh, the irony, right? So, what does this mean? So this is interesting to me. What's the tail on that, right? So the tail on that is that one kind of obvious thing, that we're in better place. Now, no one should get comfy about the midterms. We should all keep fighting like the Dickens to make sure that we get the pickups. But in 2018, when we had a diluted version of this environment, we picked up 32 seats, right? I think we're due to pick up easily closer to 40. And here's why I say that. In those GOPers that are either going to retire or quit, about half of them are a pickup. So that gives us roughly between 20, if I do the math, it's almost 50 people. So we can easily pick up those. And then we were due to pick up 20 to 30 for sure. Anyway, so I'm guessing that median number is going to be right around 40 that we pick up. So look for that.
Mhm.
I also think the Senate is now in play because there's a couple senators now considering too, because they're about done. I mean, I would guess Dr. Bill Cassidy, the senator from Louisiana, is about done with RFK. I would be about done. I'd be cooked. I'd have a fork in that and say, yeah, no, thank you. Regardless, I do think that the Senate, do I think it's highly likely we'll take the Senate? No, but I do think that we now have a chance. Whereas I would say, if you'd asked me 6 weeks ago, I would say, I don't know. Now, what does this mean? Super long tail. This means that we could have a rejuvenation and reform period like we did in 1932 through 1948 in the FDR period. And why do I say that? Is because I think that the GOP brand has been so revealed. Now, that doesn't make our brand better, doesn't make the Democratic brand better right now, but it does expose in a very, very visceral and guttural way the GOP brand. And people will vote against things just as strongly as they will for things. So I think we're looking toward, a long 16-year period, maybe a decade of renewal where we may take the majority most of those years. Now, illegal orders, these illegal orders. So the Venezuelan situation where Trump keeps on ordering these poor fishing boats, and there may be drugs on them. Who knows? It's hard to say when we blow them to bits, right? We don't know if there's evidence or not, but he's asking our military to blow people to bits for virtually no reason to hit a target of 30 people on a mid-sized boat. That's insane. And it's extrajudicial too. So what's remarkable about that? It's not only that that is an insane order and it's illegal, to be clear, but remember, in the Wayback Machine 8 months ago, the top judge advocates general, or the JAGs, for the Army and the Navy and the Air Force either resigned or were taken out. So removed in some way. So this makes these proceedings very tricky, right? Is that not only can Trump say, hey, I don't like those members of Congress that spoke out and told the truth about the law, but he can do it to others as well. So what I think is interesting, though, is that I think the generals, more than anything else, are about done. We keep seeing these rumored on background interviews from various outlets saying that, like they are going to be very clear on what's legal and what's not legal. So stay tuned on that. I think metaphorically, our cavalry will save the day and follow the law. So this week, I think my message to everybody is keep doing all of the things that you're doing. Keep protesting, keep boycotting, supporting great candidates, particularly congressional candidates, but do work on down ballot. That's our farm team, right? Keep going on all of that. And more importantly than keep telling your story, folks, is that I think in one of my Substacks early in the administration in January, I said, tell your story to your neighbors, friends that are independent, to everybody. Tell your story about how your mom was on hospice care and she got her Medicaid taken away. Tell the story of the cancer trials being taken away. Tell the story of how your small business went under because of this immigration policy. Tell your story, right? So keep telling your story. And I do have a few Substacks coming up on these topics if you want to do a deep dive in any of them. And then next week, we are going to return, speaking of Joey being part of the new guard of candidates for Congress, we're going to keep interviewing folks that are part of the new guard. And remember our definition of the new guard: new thinkers and bold thinkers. Doesn't have to mean an age at all. You can be young, medium, or old. But if you're a new thinker that is meeting the moment, that's what I'm defining as part of the new guard. And we're going to have more of those folks on. So watch for that. And then on my Substack, I'm going to do a whole column on new guard versus old guard this week. And you can find me at Marie Newman Studio there. So with that, I'm going to toss it back to my friend Mohammed and let's chat.
Hey, Marie, you're talking about stories. I was referring to yesterday, I had to go for a family get together, and with all the snow and everything,
Yeah.
there were no snow plows on the roads. And I'm talking 55, I'm talking 355 major highways.
Yeah, that's
Hardly-
IDOT. That's not a city. That's not a municipal. That's IDOT is in charge.
Hardly
Yeah.
a snow plow out there, right?
Yeah.
So someone remarked in the party, that people who actually drive those snowplows are not there anymore. Most of them are too afraid to even step up, even to come out, because most of these are landscapers who are doing these jobs
That
in
is
the
correct.
winter,
Yeah.
and the red hats don't have the skills to drive a snowplow.
Well, I don't know if that's entirely accurate, but I will tell you that our loved ones and our neighbors that are living in fear right now and won't come out of their basements, who are traumatized by this illegal ICE operation and DHS operation, are staying home and not able to come and do their jobs. And I want to be clear, they're not able to. So the ICE is disempowering them and disenabling small businesses, because landscapers and snowplow drivers are part of small businesses, and they're usually freelancers or contractors. So while IDOT isn't able to recruit folks to do this, there's a reason, right? Is that, and this goes back to, I'll just tell you a basic human principle. These people are willing, our friends and neighbors that are immigrants of various statuses, documentation statuses, are willing to do the hardest work that takes the longest amount of time that no one else will do. And so every time Kristi Noem, Trump, or Stephen Miller, or any of these very incredibly unbalanced, unwell people come out and say that Black and brown folks or immigrant folks or indigenous folks are bad or negative or something toxic, it is the epitome of wrong. Practically, it is immoral to say all that, by the way. Let's remind everybody that all these people are immoral, but it's also illegal and impractical, because now it's affected the economy. So
let's not forget also that we have citizens who were born here, like my son-in-law, okay, of Mexican ancestry. Which I'm Latin myself, but born here, and his father, not only born here, served 2 tours in Vietnam. Okay, I know his dad, great guy, and yet he's afraid to come out of his house in Lincoln Square because they're rounding up citizens and detaining them even when they show their documentation. So, if you have any brown in your skin,
right, God forbid you have melatonin in your skin, like, please.
Hey,
part of
me,
that
me. Okay, me and Sheila is shaking her head on that.
Adriana, yeah, I mean, and Bill,
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But John Roberts and the Supreme Court have to bear some responsibility here, because they said it was okay to racially profile.
Yeah.
That's nuts.
it is not. It is not okay in any way. And the results are always bad. It's, again, immoral, illegal, and impractical, because it affects our economy. So choose a bucket. I always say choose the right bucket, which is let's live in morality, but let's also live in legality. But the practicality of it is this ruins every economy. So now trucks, food trucks and supply trucks are not getting through on the roads because our friends that are landscapers that do the part-time job of driving these trucks can't get anywhere. So it ruins the economy. I've made this case a million times over the last 20 years to Republican friends, and they ultimately agree with me, but they're like, well, but, right? And so my heart breaks because I get a call. I would say I get a call because I always call myself the backup congressman, because everybody calls me when they can't get a hold of them. So it's like, what do I do when, right? So I'm kind of I have a call button, so I have friends calling all the time, and I usually connect them with immigration attorneys that do pro bono work so that, in fact, they can get out of the tangles that they're in. But there's only so many of those. So what have people reverted to? Bill very adroitly said two things that are important, right? Is that people are hiding. But worse, we learned from CBS News right here on the ground in Chicago, and ABC News verified that over 97% of the people that they're detaining illegally have never had any interaction with the criminal justice system at all in any way. They're just folks that are out there living their lives and doing good things, right? And so their accuracy rate is hovering between 2 and 3% in Chicago, but now we're finding out in Portland and all these other places, it's only 5 to 10% that is accurate. And then they are detaining 90% of the people that are just either documented, going through document, or citizens. So I always say, and this is just an important thing, is that I don't know which is, of course, the immorality of all this is the most offensive. The illegal is offensive, but the sheer incompetence and stupidity should be frightening to us all.
Yep.
I think that's why, sorry if I could jump in. I think that's why a lot of Republicans are leaving and retiring because they know that the buck's going to come to roost eventually. They're going to be held accountable. And so you need to get out while you can. And
Yeah.
it goes back to what you were saying with populism and the FDR, notion of economic populism. Even Trump is talking about why we're going into Venezuela because it's going to provide cheaper oil and it's going to be a heyday for American oil companies. So he is even recognizing the shift, but of course he's using it in order to do more illegal activity.
And as
Well, wouldn't it be fun if he just went to Venezuela and worked with the leaderships there and said, "Hey, let's create a bilateral
Marie,
trade
come on.
agreement." How about
Maduro's
that? That'd be
offered
crazy,
everything.
right? Cuckoo.
Yeah.
If he does that, then who is going to be replenishing the bullets and the bombs and all the other stuff that we are spending like crazy over there?
Yeah.
Someone is making money off of these
Oh,
wars.
in multiple ways. It's the oil industry, it's the munitions industry. It's, in fact, with regard to, because they have some substandard ways of approving their drugs. Trump
Yeah.
is, that whole Trump healthcare plan that he had that was about getting drugs priced. He thought he was going to get substandard drugs from a bunch of these countries that don't even have a real approval process and saying, hey, here, America, had these substandard drugs. They're cheap.
Yep. Bill, you wanted to say something.
Well, as a member of the Directors Guild of America, I get what's known as screeners. Okay, even before the movie comes out.
Yeah.
I would highly recommend. I'm not sure if it's started yet or not. I think it starts in a few days. But Nuremberg is an excellent example.
It does look good. Oh, you got to see it, Bill. I'm so jealous. That looks very good.
It's extremely well done. It's got a great cast. It doesn't do what I thought it might do, which is only to, a deal on the negativity of obviously the Reich cause, but it looks at the members of the Reich who are involved in this.
Yeah.
And what's scary, and what's scary, frankly, for us today, I know even for my own family, we've got people who say, well, I was just following orders, or actually, frankly, you know what? I saw some value in the fact that they were trying to bring Germany back to a state, which, if you don't know your history, then I'll share a little bit here with you. Germany was given untenable conditions after World War I.
Yeah, no, it was.
It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So, but that's what you have now, even in this country, people saying, well, okay, I don't like everything he does, but he's America first. He's not.
No, he's
not.
Not at all. He's Trump first.
Just getting
That's
all
what it
this
is.
money, and the American farmers are screwed. I mean, come on, that's not America first. It's just not.
It's Trump first. And speaking of Nuremberg, so you brought up an interesting topic, right? Is that so having a few conversations with various committees in Congress, et cetera, they are finally planning ahead on an offensive position once we get some of these evil characters out of office, and looking at, the Nuremberg trials were very specific, is that they had documentation. They were able to adjudicate in a way that was very specific to each of these people in a very specific way, no matter where they were in the world, right? And adjudicate them properly to its full extent. And that required international involvement. Obviously, those trials were international. And so what's interesting here is we could see a scenario where, I won't say who, but members of this administration, top to bottom, could be in a Nuremberg type situation with the ICC. And then they could have a simultaneous one running with Netanyahu. So we have a very ICC might have a real full docket coming up, so we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah.
Well, Marie, good morning to you. This is
Good
Reed.
morning. How are you, Reed?
I'm okay, thank you. We were talking about, before you had a chance to join us, I was talking about Venezuela sort of at length, about my frustrations with international law components of this. And unfortunately, ever since 1986, the United States, even though we're a member of the United Nations and the Security Council, we do not submit ourselves to the compulsory jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice anymore. We choose to do it on a case-by-case basis, usually dictated by whether or not we think we're going to win there. And the problem with that is that the United States is so powerful in the United Nations that we can't stop illegal activities like what's happening in Venezuela through the international courts. And then I'm frustrated in that we don't have a Congress that will stand up to this illegal activity by asserting its power as Congress, which is an exclusive power to them that they should jealously guard, the power to declare war. And they won't pass a resolution telling the president, no funding for this, you can't do it. And then we have the problem of we want our military to not obey illegal orders, and they're right, that's the law, that's the military code of justice. But when some senator like Slotkin in Michigan, she's part of that video reminding our military that they can't obey illegal orders, she's asked point blank on one of the talk shows, give us an example of Trump issuing an illegal order, and she's not forthcoming. So it's very frustrating there. And so we're kind of at the point where we have to depend upon our military, our officers, to stand up to this president. I'm not saying disobey orders that they don't agree with. I'm saying should be disobeyed.
Illegal orders are clear, and they can be defined.
Exactly. And then we got the problem of tech bros being commissioned as lieutenant colonels and that sort of thing, who have every bit of interest in maintaining war, because their companies that they work for out of Silicon Valley are going to make lots of money as defense contractors. So it's just this vicious cycle that continues to perpetuate this endless series of wars, starting with Iraq and going in there because they supposedly were behind 9/11, which they weren't, all the way up to the present. So
that was Dick Cheney's economic plan. Actually, that wasn't even that's why he wanted the economy to get better. But you're so right, Reed. It brings up kind of two things in my head, is that what Alyssa Slotkin should have said, the response to that should have been that it doesn't matter who the president is. If they provide an order that is XYZ and PDQ, then in fact, that would be an example of illegal, no matter who gave that order. An example of a legal version of that is why. So if she had done that compare and contrast, that would have been better, because she is in an investigation, so she has to be really careful. So I'm going to give her an out here. She has to be really careful with what she says right now. But if she had said the hypothetical, she probably would have been fine. So that's A. B, with regard to that, the War Powers Act. It is fascinating, is that, just to be clear, I want to call these people out. There's a couple of Democrats that are unwilling to sign that too. So like, I want to, this has to be a full-throated all of Congress thing. Now, I will say folks like Thomas Massey in the House and Rand Paul in the Senate are real American first people. And you know what? I'll take some of those folks right now. Like, because if it's just like keeping this president in a box and, limiting his ability, then I'm all for it. So, but you're right. It is so frustrating to watch this. It's disgusting.
So, Marie, bottom line, we have been discussing this for weeks now.
Yep.
That I think the eventual responsibility comes on us, the people.
It does.
Because it's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people, for the people.
That's right.
And it is so frustrating for me to see the low turnout in the elections that we have.
Yeah.
Typically, about 20-25% of the registered voters are coming out to vote. And we are letting this...
In midterms, yeah.
We are letting this tail wag the dog now.
Yeah.
In Will County, where I am, last time the turnout was 18.8%, not even 19%.
In Cook, it's 10 or 11% the last 3 cycles. Yeah, it's deplorable. I had a saying on all my races, is I would say that nobody's coming to save us. We are going to save us, And we are running this race together. The district and I were running this race together. So I always tell candidates that I help is say we're partners of running this race together, because it is always incumbent upon the people and the citizens to, it's written in our Constitution, it's part of our ethos, it's part of our zeitgeist, it's all the things, right? But I think I'm with you, Mohammed. We need to remind people all the time. It's like, honey, nobody's coming. You got to do your own gig. You got to make it happen. So
We have to, and we have to start with our immediate families and our neighbors. Have discussions, folks. Bring it up. They say, oh no, politics is a dirty game. It's not politics. It's your everyday life.
yeah, well,
I
it is.
tell people
Politics is a
that,
dirty game, but
you take a look at your tax bill. See how many local bodies are taxing you. Fire district, sanitary district, library district, school district. 70 to 80% of your taxes are from local bodies, and people don't pay any attention to local elections.
well, worse. So this was a thing of mine, and this will make it, as everybody knows, I'm a very liberal Democrat, but interestingly, there's only a few states that do what the state of Illinois do and have all of these legal bodies and government bodies called townships. There is no need for townships. There is not. They should be collapsed into either county government or municipal government. It is a layer that was created when we had a lot of rural counties that didn't get what they needed, but that is not the case now. We have very regimented county bodies that are fully capable of creating services for people. So adding this layer of townships in, it's funny, I've had long talks with Republicans about this, and it's like the one place in Illinois government we can all agree, right? But it never gets done because those township electeds won't like me. So,
Yeah, and most people have no idea what a township is.
yeah, like what does it even do?
And what it does, okay? And
We got HOAs for.
what, Reed?
That's what we got HOAs for now.
Yeah, right.
No, but that is where we need to focus on, folks, that we have got to get the vote out. If we don't get the vote out, nothing is going to change, because these people that are in elected office, they have their followers, for lack of a better word, their followers come out and vote for them.
That's right.
And if we want to make and see change, we have got to bring in new blood into the voting process also, not just the running for office process.
Right. Well, and I think that is happening. So what I'm seeing in a lot of these new guard races, like Joey Rusevich in Illinois 6, we're seeing these new guard candidates attracting voters that have not voted before, or they're sporadic voters, right? And that is really important. Keena Collins, and we had her on last week or the week before. And she's one of those new guards. Bushra Amawala in Illinois 9, Junaid Ahmed in Illinois 8. These are folks that are attracting new voters or folks that are sporadic because they just haven't been inspired before, right? So what I keep telling all of these candidates is that voter registration is very hard. Certainly keep getting people to do that and having full-on registration.
I'm live on there.
But also, it looks like we have a joiner. But also like get your friends that are sporadic voters that before have said, well, it doesn't matter. No, your vote does matter. One vote matters. We have seen, just a quick stat, in 2024, something like 30% of the races, congressional races, remember a congressional district is 750,000 people. Those congressional races were decided by less than 500 votes. So do not, with 4 underlines, tell me that your vote doesn't matter. If 500 extra people had come out, we would have a very different set of guardrails on this president.
So Joey, as a candidate for the 6th district now, going against an incumbent with a huge war chest, how are you planning to bring in new blood into the voting process?
Very simply by telling people what I can deliver for them when I'm in office. And I think Marie brought up a great point originally with the bots on social media. This is a choice that the social media companies make to keep the bots on their platforms. They have the engineering ability to verify identity, but they know that the bots are going to allow and cause for more people to be coming back and replying to them, because they do say the most outrageous things that get picked up by the algorithm. And so they're going to reply to your post with the most outrageous stance possible, get you upset to then respond to them. And then you're addicted to the platform, continuing to scroll, continuing to see ads, and continuing to make that company more money. And so again, this is the profit incentive of, do we have somebody in office that, first of all, understands this technology? Myself as a software engineer, I know what goes on with the recommendation algorithms and the verification process of the identities of the profiles, and how we can stop these bots from being a part of the public conversation, because it does drown out the vast majority of the voices that are on there that are reasonable, that do have good ideas, and it just goes to the most extreme points of either end of the spectrum. So if I talk about, artificial intelligence, I want to ban everybody that is under 18 from using human imitating chatbots, right? Those types of policy points are not being talked about by anybody in office right now, because they're not bold new thinkers. They don't understand the technology, the harms that it's doing. And so if we have somebody that's coming forward and saying, listen, I understand the age that we are in, the crisis that we are facing, and I'm going to actually do something about it to regulate it, to make sure that your life is better once I'm in office, that's going to get a lot of people out to vote.
Is that a bill that you would personally would sponsor to?
Absolutely. That's one of my new flagship AI policy regulations, is complete ban on anybody under 18 using human imitating chatbots. I'm not saying ban all AI tools. I use AI tools myself in software development. I use Copilot in Android Studio. It's very useful for code generation, but of course you need the understanding of software to be able to check the code that it has. This is completely different than having a kid who it does not have a fully developed brain, who's already dealing with the lower amounts of social interaction with other human beings, now putting more and more time into a human imitating machine, messing up their social abilities even further, atrophying their learning abilities. It's just, there's no positive benefit to kids interacting with this stuff.
So Joey, one of the things that you brought out again is understanding modern technologies. Most of these old timers that are out there in our Congress and the Senate have absolutely no idea about technology. They don't know how to spell the darn word. Okay.
Right. Yeah. And sorry, go ahead.
And I just want to add one thing to what you said, Joey, is that so if we look historically in the last 20 years, members of Congress did not understand social media at all, and then the technology that feeds it for the last 20 years. And now look where we're at. We're in a hot mess. Meta is being sued, and they have identified in court. They knew when they were putting out disinformation. They knew when they were pimp pushing out information to young girls. They knew about creating bots that were taught kids how to commit suicide. They knew all these things, and they still refused to fix it. So that was a direct result of members of Congress not understanding social media as a social program, but also understanding the technology under it. They knew what crypto was, but they refused to understand it. And now we had FTX collapse half the market, and now it's going through another bust. Yep. And what they won't accept is that crypto is part of the world. It's not collateralized. So let's go back to what it is. It's not collateralized. It's not a real currency, but it is being used by most of the 180 countries out there in the universe. So we do have to understand it, and we do have to regulate it and deal with it. But again, Congress refused to understand and learn and deep dive on it. So now here we are in that bad spot. Now, fast forward, AI has been around for 36 years. 36 years. And we have refused to look at it every time either a computer scientist has brought it up, a social scientist has brought it up, or whatever. And so now companies are doing huge layoffs as a result of AI. So there's a direct economic impact. But when it was brought before Congress in various hearings over the last 10 years, we'll get to that and we'll put it up. Well, no. And look where we are now. So we need more people in Congress that understand not just technology, but its long tail effects on society. And I think that's why, candidates like Joey are great in Illinois 6 because they really understand this. There are members of Congress. I can't think of one that really is. I'm just trying to do a quick scan in my head right now. But I can't think of one member of Congress right now that is a full-on technology expert. I don't think there are any other software engineers. I don't think there's anybody that can code in Congress, but I also don't think there's anybody that has the combination of understanding the social experiment and technology, which is really the critical piece here.
Well,
So I think
you got a lot of people with law degrees, though, Marie,
and doctors, which is weird.
yeah,
But
who like to
it,
write these laws that benefit them, and
yeah,
and their sponsors, the APACs and the J Street and all of those people,
yeah.
but actually writing the laws for our country over here. Now we got a small country somewhere in the Middle East running our country over here. So you talk about a tail wagging the dog over here.
100%.
Joey, how are you going to be countering those pressures when you get into Congress, my friend?
Sure. So, first and foremost, just dragging people in front of, let's say, the House Oversight Committee, the CEOs of these tech companies, and exposing what Marie has been talking about on a major platform, and making sure that they are not able to weasel their way out of questions, because I'm going to be able to anticipate the answers that they give to shield themselves, and I'm going to continue to press and make sure that the truth comes out. And then after we have the information, we're going to hopefully be able to prosecute them, because they are doing all of these things with the knowledge of the damage that they're doing in order to make more profit. And that's the profit incentive at the end of the day, driving everything. Trump is probably committing the largest money laundering scheme of all time with Trump coin, the ability to have foreign investors give hundreds of millions of dollars into his cryptocurrency for, favorable deals when it comes to military equipment or sanctions or whatnot. So this is it's a combination of the fact that people do not understand the technology or the impacts of it, and then on the other side, benefiting from the negative effects that are existing in the current environment.
So, Murray, you had remarked in the past about the number of APAC handlers that are out there in
Yeah.
Congress.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying that, what, 80% of Congress people or more?
87% of Congress members take APAC or Democratic Majority for Israel. Jewish Fed has a PAC, and several other what I call bully PACs. One of them is 314 Science. So quick recap is that APAC is like the hedge fund, right? Then they move money through all of these PACs like United Democratic Majority for Israel, United Democracy Project. 314 Science, folks, underline that, is that a lot of these PACs are merely laundering money for APAC and other foreign agents. And remember, APAC is a foreign lobby. They can scream all day long that they're not, but they are by definition. So all of these other groups that take their money and then fund it through. And why do they do that? Because APAC 100% knows that if you hear the word APAC and you're a voter, they know bad. All they know is APAC bad. They can't tell you why it's bad, but they know bad. So they have a real brand problem. So now they're funneling their money through Democratic Majority for Israel and 314 Science and all these other PACs, United Democracy Project. So be careful when you are supporting these candidates that are supporting foreign entities and foreign lobbies. Be very careful. We do not want that. That's why we don't. I'll just be honest. And you can draw the line, and I'll draw the line for you. The reason we don't have Medicare for all or a single payer system, which is desperately needed because nothing else works in the world, period, is because of APAC money and other bully PACs, and then the healthcare PAC industry. And it is an industry of PACs I would say something like 60% of Congress takes healthcare insurance money, and then probably a full 90% takes pharmaceutical money. So it's why we do not have a good healthcare system. So when you support a candidate that takes corporate PAC money or bully PAC money like APAC, you are furthering the worsening of our healthcare system. That's A. B, the reason we don't have climate change is because even these climate hawks in Congress that are Democrats take Chevron, Exxon, all of the big oil company money. And the reason that we do not have, or the reason that we have a rigged economy is because 89% of members of Congress take money from all of them. So the problem is that every time a candidate takes corporate PAC money or bully PAC money, we don't get something done that we desperately need. So we need to unrig the economy and we need healthcare for all. And the reason we don't have them in the shorthand is APAC and corporate PACs.
Yep, and we need new people like Joey in Congress. Okay,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
I want to bring in Adriana. We got about 7 minutes to finish off the show today. Adriana, as a Gen Zer now, what keeps you up at night?
So much. But actually, I wanted to bring up something that's actually happening at my campus. We were recently in the news and not for very good things. So
Hmm.
at my university, a couple of students were trying to get Turning Point students to be an organization at campus. Now, my campus promotes that they are built on 95% of their student population to be diverse. So you have an organization that is shown in the media to be very anti-diversity, bringing those ideals into a campus that is very diverse. They had a tabling. Well, they had signatures to sign for a petition to get them on campus. Then they had a tabling event where students were very upset that they were there. And then they had a call out meeting. And now for that call out meeting, a lot of people were very disgusted at the fact that they were even allowed to be on campus, that something that's political and mixing religion is allowed to be on campus. So there was a professor that said that let's go down and let's see what it is. And she went down, a couple of students went down as well to see what this all was about. And there was a few things as these individuals are going through the slideshow of what Turning Point is to them. One thing that caught a lot of people by surprise is that they said that this organization represents the accurate views of our Constitution. And
Turning
what,
point.
yeah, it's accurate. I didn't know that we were being told the inaccurate part. So that was news to me. But it was very interesting because my friend said, "Do you want to go?" And I was like, I'm going to stay back because she wanted to know what it is about and why people are supporting it.
Mhm.
She's very not on the side of it. I was like, no, because I know that I will not go in with it open mind, and I don't want to do that to other individuals. Well, she had went and the professor had made a comment, and it started to make a group conversation within the whole thing. Like the presentation stopped and everything, and she's called them to be fascist and racist for bringing this onto campus. And they said, "How is this racist? How is this fascism?" She said, "Oh, do you want to know what fascism is?" And goes in front of the class, in front of like this classroom setting of a lot of individuals that were there to describe why that this is a very bad organization to bring to a campus of such a diverse population. Now, a individual recorded that, posted it online, and it got a lot of attention and a lot of negative attention. It was posted on a Instagram page that says the Libs of TikTok official. And from there, all of the comments are derogatory, racist, sexist, and overall just hateful speech. And people think that it is okay. The Turning Point USA for the campus, they made it their own Instagram page, posted on their Instagram story, guys, we made it on Fox News. Very excited that this was on Fox News, and they were degrading this woman, this professor, using the color of her skin against her, saying that she is an uneducated black woman. Now, with the comments that are on their page, I just want to point out one that was very, very interesting to me. as to why this is, in my opinion, not a very good organization, because this is how people who support it think that it is okay. Now, people are going off back and forth in text chains of the comments, and one individual responded to somebody that was saying how the founder, Charlie Kirk, said a lot of racist things, as such as that if he sees a black pilot, he hopes that he is qualified, and that all immigrants are border hoppers and line cutters. And the person replied, yes, because the trend of DEI hiring, you sure missed a part. Nowhere did he say that black people are inherently less qualified. You left out the entire point. Black people are the ones who benefit the most from DEI hiring, and never said that immigrants are line cutters and border jumpers. You left out the illegal part. How is that racist when they're literally jumping the border and cutting the line in front of those waiting to get in the legal way? And goes on to say that making a watch list against professors who are against freedom of speech, nobody is being legally punished, is not against freedom of speech at all, and that this isn't Christian hate values, and leads into the fact that America does not owe immigrants anything, that nobody should become an American citizen just because they're born here, leading into the fact of how Trump is trying to take away birthright citizenship. They think that that's completely fine. And it goes on. There's so many just very hateful, racist things that is happening. And the student population's not happy, so much so that they are making a petition to remove them from the campus. And it already has 2,000 signatures on this, and this hasn't even been up for a week.
Awesome. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Adriana. Folks, it's 9:58. We got 2 minutes to finish off the show today, and we had Joey Rozovich joining us today. Yeah, he's running for Illinois 6th Congressional District, challenging Sean Casten, and we definitely want you to please come out and support Joey. Former Congresswoman Murray Newman is on our show every Sunday at 9:15. Murray, thank you so much for joining. Dr. Sheila White, how many Emmy nominations so far, Sheila, for you?
Woo! Woo, 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 woo.
You're muted. Sheila, you're muted. Okay, Sheila needs to unmute, but I think she's got 3 Emmy nominations so far as a producer, director, and overall a great person. And we got Bill Natali and joining us today. And Bill, how many stations have you worked with? Can you name a few before we let you go?
Yeah, CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, PBS. I've worked for all the stations in Chicago except for Channel 38. My new book, I hope all of you will let the mayor know. It should be the one book for Chicago because it does deal with the situation of race, and it's called Sawyer Avenue: Life in the Times of Ozzie and Harriet. And so, if you haven't got it, you can get it at a bookstore or online. But I think what's important is that it deals with history in reality, not the whitewash stuff. And
Okay.
the fact that
Well,
it's
we'll definitely pass on the word, Bill. Unfortunately, in radio, we have to look at the clock, and it's 10 o'clock. And Read Bible, thank you so much for joining us. Department of Homeland Security, Special Supervisory Agent, former attorney, retired attorney, and overall a great resource for us at the Lightning Strike over here.
Thank you for having me.
Great conversation today, folks. Thank you so much, and we'll see you again next week, Sunday, same time in the morning, 8 o'clock Central Time. And if you have any questions, any concerns, feel free to call us at our call-in line, which is 312 TLS 8182. Leave us a message, and we'll be happy to play your message back on the air. This is Mohammed Fahim signing off today. Thank you all. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.